And welcome everyone to National Media Day as we are joined by George Mason, one of the top programs in the EIVA as they are going to be competing to hopefully win that EIVA championship and get into the NCAA tournament this season. So we're joined by Coach Jay Hosack, along with Sam Greensley, Brad Kramer, and Hayden Wagner. So Coach, I'll start off with you. Obviously, crazy times this offseason and going into 2021. What's your expectations for the Patriots in this upcoming season?
We're just super excited to get after it, Vinny. You know, we obviously came into the year not knowing what it was going to look like at all. We had to go through the protocols to return to practice like everybody else. And fortunately, we were one of the number of teams, very few actually, that got a chance to even play at all this fall. And luckily had, knock on wood, we had no positive cases. And so we were able to continue through that and get ready to go for the season. So it looked in the beginning very slow and kind of monotonous, and it picked up speed. And by the end of the practice session of that semester, we looked pretty good. So our expectations this year are to win the IBA. We have a great number of guys at the top leadership wise. And you got three of them right here on the screen with you that are providing just so much information for the young guys and the young class that just came in and the guys that were here the year last year as freshmen that are back. They're soaking it all up. So, we're hoping that we can just keep trotting along and have some opportunities to have an opportunity later on the season to play.
Let's go on over to a couple of players. Let's start with Hayden. Last year, obviously, you're beat up a little bit, guys. First, how's the injury situation for you, and how are you feeling going in this season?
Yeah, I'm definitely ready to get the season going. I'm happy to be back and have the opportunity to be back. Feeling pretty good and just plan to stay healthy and ready for the season for sure.
Yeah. Now, obviously, this offseason, you probably couldn't do your typical training regimens. Can you describe what you were able to do this offseason to stay in shape when you were away from George Mason?
Yeah, definitely. I know a lot of the gyms were closed down, so it was tough to get into facilities to be able to work out the traditional way. So it was fun kind of being creative here at home, trying to stay active and find ways to still be able to lift weights and whatever to stay active and stay strong and be ready for the season.
We'll go on over to Sam here. Sam, you look at the EIVA this upcoming season, you guys were picked to finish in third place in the preseason poll. Do you guys take that as a slight? Do you take that as motivation or just not care at all?
I think we go into every season kind of not too worried about where we start. We understand that EVA is pretty competitive. You look around, I think everybody's bringing back really full old teams. Penn State as always. NJIT, bringing back a lot of really good players, old guys who know what they're doing. So I think we don't take it as a slight at all. If anything, it's hard to even rank those teams just because everybody's so talented and everybody's bringing back so much talent throughout the league.
Yeah. And let's toss it now over to Sam. Sam, you're returning a lot of players, but every year a team looks different. From what you've seen of this team on the court, Brad, what do you feel is the biggest difference from this team right now to when we last saw you guys in March?
Yeah, kind of throwing it back to what you asked Hayden about last year. We got beat up a little bit, and yeah, it stunk for part of it, but at the same time, it was a blessing in disguise. We got a lot of young guys, a lot of playing time who probably wouldn't have seen a lot of playing time. And because of that, we've come to the gym, and we're easily the deepest we've ever been. We're looking forward to that and the ability to plug and play different guys in different positions and not have the level of play drop at all is a really nice thing to have coming off, especially a season like last season. So we're really excited. We're really healthy. We're so deep. It's going to be a lot of fun for us, I have a feeling.
So we're joined by Jonathan Bates of Off the Block as well, who I think has a couple questions. Jonathan, floor is yours.
I'll ask Sam this question. Speaking of being beat up, another player that was beat up was Luis Velez. So can you tell us or take us into last season and how you adjusted to having to playing with a different setter after Luis went down?
Yeah, It is always an adjustment when you have new setters on the court, especially because there were multiple matches and we had two setters playing, throughout, depending on who was hot and who was not. But I think the blessing is that in our gym, it's so deep that we're playing with a lot of setters day in and day out. I mean, even now with Luis back in the gym, I'm playing with him and I'm playing with Zach, pretty much each day, I'm playing with different setters. So while, during the matches, it may look like Luis is my go-to setter and I've known him for 5 years. I have plenty of reps with kind of everybody in the gym and kind of know their tendencies, and you start to learn people as you go. So it takes a second to adjust, but after a few points, I think it's not too bad. And all of our setters are so talented that it's not too big of a problem.
Coach,
and another question for Jay, not related to that, but I'm always curious about schedules. So I see that you're playing 4 non-conference schedule opponents in your schedule. How do those games come about in a pandemic year?
Yeah, we found out probably mid-semester last year that we were going to go to an all EIVA conference schedule that started in February and would go all the way through April, which we're pretty excited about. The EIVA as a whole has gotten so much better in the last 5 years that they're really, really good teams. And so all of the programs are going to be battle tested. But that allowed us January to be able to
Did we? I think we may have lost Jay here really quick. So for him to reboot. Let's stick with the schedule question. Or Jay, are you back with us? I think
I'm here. I'm here. I haven't gone anywhere.
Oh, sorry. There we go. So I think you're talking about how you were going to go undefeated and not lose a set this season. That's where we last lost you. No, I'm just.
Yeah, no, I didn't say that at all. No, so we were able to schedule a couple of matches in January that with some local programs, obviously Barton and Southern Virginia, which we're super happy to play. Ball State was a late addition. We were going to travel out to them, and fortunately, we were not able to go out there, but they were able to come out to us. And so to have them as our first couple of matches of the year, we're really excited about. They're a good program, obviously. Pretty historic tradition to that program, and this is Joel Walton's last season, so we're just excited to be able to get a chance to play them again.
And sticking with the schedule, let's throw it on over to Hayden. Why ask you this season? You're going to be playing a lot of back-to-back nights against the same team. Not typical. Usually, you go on a road trip. You play a different team each night. From you as a player, does that make it easier at times in terms of the game prep, only having to focus on one opponent per week? Or does it become additional challenges with just the adjustments you have to make in between matches?
Yeah, I think for us, no matter who's on the other side of the net, our preparation's still the same. We still go through the same routine, pre-match routine and things like that. And I think just with having the same team back-to-back, we'll be able to make the proper adjustments right away from Friday night to Saturday night. And come out even stronger Saturday than we do Friday. So I don't think it's anything any bad thing. I think if anything, we're gonna be more prepared that Saturday night and be ready to compete both nights. So.
And one of the things about this season, you're going to be going to every gym in the EIVA. They'll be coming here. So we'll ask all the players, because this will likely be your final trips to some of these places. So what road gym in the EIVA are you most excited to return to?
I'll start with this one. Being a Pennsylvania guy, love going up to Penn State, love playing in that gym and just playing against those guys. But I'm excited to be in every gym in the EIVA just one last time, and super stoked to be able to play them. So I'll pass it off to one of these guys.
I'll go too. I mean, obviously, Pennsylvania guy like Hayden, Penn State, St. Francis, those trips always hold a special place in my heart just because a lot of family there. But I think I always enjoy NJIT. They always have a fun gym to play in, real big. I remember my freshman year we played there, and they had that tiny little dark gym, which is a fun place to play. But now they have that big WEC, and it's a great new arena and a fun place to be. So I think I like going up there too.
Yeah, I'll finish up. I have to agree with Sam. The NJIT site is quite impressive. It's a really fun one. I've gotten to play play there once so far, but kind of like what you mentioned, you have your so-called farewell tour as an old guy. It's a blessing that a lot of guys don't get to visit every gym one last time before you head out. So I know some of us old guys are really appreciative of, while there's a lot of negatives that are happening this season that you could easily weigh yourself down on. There's a lot of cool things and opportunities that we're also getting to experience. So.
Brad, we'll stick with you here for this question. Obviously, one of the components of this season is you may not have fans in the arena or very limited fans, depending on the school's protocol. As a player, how different is it playing in an empty arena compared to an arena that has fans in it?
Yeah, there's no secret. Fans make it fun, right? If they didn't, we'd practice every day and never have games. So that piece will be something that we miss. However, saying that, shout out to the George Mason fan community. They are doing everything in their power to show us that we're loved and that they're there. And even though they're not there in person, that they are there in spirit. They're doing fat heads for us for the stands. They're sending us messages on Facebook about how excited they are for the season and Instagram and things like that. So I don't think there's a single person in our gym who doesn't think, wow, there might not be as many bodies as we're used to, that there aren't eyes on screens and hearts in the gym with us when we're playing. So I don't think we're too concerned about that.
Yeah. And one more question before I toss it on over to Jonathan, and I'll open this up to Jay or any of the players. It may be just a completely stupid question, like no, Vinny, whatever. But we saw NBA bubble. People were talking about the sight lines helping shooting and everything. Jay, is there any way no fans may actually help some of the sight lines and everything but serving the season for players?
I'll be real honest with you, Vinny. It doesn't affect our sight lines at all. In fact, what it probably does is it helps visiting teams to feel more at ease when you're going into hostile territories. There's a couple of gyms that historically, when you walk in, there's no shortage of people ready to give you the business. And that's part of having a home crowd advantage. We have the same thing. So no, it doesn't change any sight lines. If anything, seeing the fat heads and seeing the cutouts and all the messages, it just makes the guys feel more at home and know the people that love them and care about them and are sending them their best every day. It's pretty cool.
Jonathan, I know you had a couple more questions.
So, lighthearted question for the players. We all know that Jay's wife is an amazing cook. So what is your favorite dish that Stephanie makes? I'll start with you, Hayden.
I think I believe it was actually last year. She made us the lasagna, which is very good. Lasagna, garlic bread, Caesar salad. We got the whole spread up there. So that's probably my top. But honestly, anything she makes, she always gives us the Tupperware and makes sure we fill it up. We have leftovers all the time. So whenever we get the team dinner, it's wonderful.
Awesome.
I would say I think last year we had the lasagna. I think I brought home 3 tubs of it. We had it in the freezer for a while, but I was getting kind of jealous of all the Facebook posts Jay was making about his Mexican feast going on in place of his Christmas vacation. So, I don't know. Maybe we got to get one of those meals in us before I can make the call. But lasagna was good.
Yeah, it's funny if you picked a head coach to have a spouse and you could pick any occupation for a bunch of hungry 22-year-old boys. I think a fantastic cater, cook, all that stuff would probably be first choice. So we got the number one combination that we could have in a head coach and a family there. So yeah, we're pretty blessed.
Yeah, my waistline has definitely expanded since the first day I met Stephanie. I'm a very lucky guy, and she loves this team like they're her own boys, and we're very, very just stoked to have her be a part of the program in any form or fashion.
So we had a couple new media members pop on to this Zoom call. So if you do have a question, feel free to ping us in the chat and we will go to you. I want to, as the new media is getting situated, I do want to ask all the players, jumping back, there's going to be, said no fans in the stands, so you would expect the bench to maybe play a bigger role in terms of bringing the hype and pumping stuff up. So who's the player on George Mason who's going to be the biggest hype guy on the bench this season?
I don't know. That's a hard one. We have a bunch of guys who we rely on vocally in practice. One of my personal favorites, and as a libero, he may be on the court, may not be on the court, but Trevor Kennan, that kid will get you going pretty quick. He's always juiced up, especially on game day. It's like he's like the Energizer Bunny. His tank never hits empty. So he's a fun one to keep an eye on. But honestly, as a bench, there's never really one guy I feel like who stands out. They all feed off of each other, and they just like start. It's like a mass voice that you hear. It's almost like our own crowd, but we rely on them already in previous seasons on away trips. So I don't think it'll change much when there's less fans. I think the only thing different is we'll be able to hear them better, and they'll love that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's throw it on over to Rob Aspero, who's joined us. Rob, how are you doing today? And I believe you have a question for Coach Hosek.
He's on mute, so I saw his question, and his question was: last year you were a promising team until injuries literally decimated the team. How deep are we going to be? Rob, I've said this in my gym. I've been coaching now for 20 plus years. This is probably the best team I've ever coached, top to bottom. And it includes a lot of really, really good teams I've coached over the years at a lot of places. But that doesn't guarantee you or give you anything. All it does is it makes the practice gym a lot of fun. We look at ourselves as a coaching staff every day, and I say, hey, don't screw it up today. Just let it go and let it do its thing. So, but in terms of depth this year, we've got guys at every position that I think, like Brad said earlier, it's just plug and play. I mean, we're not dropping by putting somebody else in a position and try to give them playing time. It literally is the equivalent of replacing Hayden with Hayden, or replacing Sam with Sam, or replacing Brad with Brad. The guys behind them are really, really good. And that's just because we got the luxury of having these guys come back for another year. I mean, obviously, if they had moved on, that would create a little bit of a vacuum of sorts. But again, the guys behind them are really good. But just the sheer amount of depth that we have, I'm sure it's like every team in the country. They've got maybe 2 to 3 or 4 or 5 guys that came back that if they didn't have, there'd be some openings and opportunities. But all their gyms are probably like ours. They're a lot of fun to be in right now. And the guys get after it every day. And that's really what you want, right? My job is obviously one that I love passionately and care about. But when you have teams like this, going to work every day is an absolute blast. I'm watching some of the best volleyball in the country every day in my gym for 2.5, 3 hours.
All right. Well, we'll close it out here with one final question, and we'll give the floor to Jonathan to close this out. Jonathan, what question do you have?
This question is for the senior Sam, Brad, and Hayden. I believe you have the chance to graduate and move on. I believe one of your players moved on, or graduated and moved on, or didn't make himself available of the pandemic year. Take us through the decision process to come back for your pandemic year.
Yeah, I'll go on this one. I had a pretty long decision-making process. At first when the season ended, it was pretty devastating. We had some rough nights where I was kind of trying to figure out what the next steps were. But luckily, as soon as I found out the NCAA was granting another year, Jay was the first one on the phone, and he said, I would love to have you back. And so at that point, it was just about me figuring out if that was the right thing for me and my family. And luckily, I think I called my mom like immediately after, and they were on board 100%. Go for it. It makes sense. We'll support you 100% if that's what you want to do. So then the next big question was school. And then I just had to figure out, I had graduated in May. So at that point, I was figuring out if I could get into grad programs and what was going to make sense for a year. And so now I'm getting a business analytics certificate in grad school. Really cool program. And, getting to get some more education and play some more volleyball. And I think once it all kind of came together like that, after a few months of, researching and figuring out where I wanted to do it, or not where I want to do it, but what program I wanted to do it in, it was a no-brainer once it all came together. I love this group to death. I love this group as a family. I even told Jay in his office the first day back, I said I could care less if I play a point this year. I just love being in the gym every day with these guys. I love living with these guys every day. So I think for me, you know, a couple stressful months of just figuring all that stuff out, getting organized when everything was up in the air. And then after that, it's just been nothing but a blessing. And I couldn't be happier to be back.
Yeah, I know. For me, it was a little bit of an easier decision on the volleyball side. I knew after my injuries last year, I definitely want to come back and kind of have that final senior year that I wasn't able to have last year due to an injury, forget the pandemic aspect. But then once everything came together with the pandemic and, you know, the NCAA granted us that extra year, it was definitely a no-brainer. For me, it was just kind of figuring out what I was going to do for school. And luckily, George Mason offers a grad certificate in coaching. So I decided to pursue that route. And I know later on down the road, I'm going to use that. And it's nice to just have that experience in the coaching side of things and be able to still play volleyball for my fifth year. So I'm super stoked to be back with the guys. Definitely as soon as I wasn't able to play last year, I knew I'd want to be a part of it this year and kind of be here for the guys and lead those freshmen up and help develop them just like the seniors did to me. So super stoked to be back and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and I'm probably not the best person to ask because I like to hang it over their head. I knew way ahead of time that I was coming back this year, so I didn't have to make any decisions. I knew I loved the program. I wanted to be here 5 years. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so I had no decision. I was supposed to be here anyway. So just happy to be back and happy. I talked about it with Coach once or twice before last season. All this stuff decided. I was like, I don't know if it's going to be Mason volleyball without my guys. You know, all my guys were going to be graduating. So it's been so nice to be able to go out with my group, even though I wasn't expecting to. So I'm just really excited to have one more year with my original boys.